Tonight at the Lloyd Noble Center, Oklahoma hosts Stetson in what college basketball politely calls a bye game. But if you're looking at this through maybe like a betting lens, more than just a fan lens, then this matchup becomes a little bit more interesting than what the label might suggest. Because when the number here hits 29 and a half, which is what Oklahoma's favored by, this stops being about who wins and becomes about how the game is managed. This is one of those spreads that tells you everything and yet nothing at the same time. On paper, Oklahoma is clearly the superior team. They're 8-3 overall, they're undefeated at home, and they're averaging over 90 points per game in Norman. So Porter Moser's group, they don't just beat mid-majors, they overwhelm them. St. Francis gave up 102 points. Arkansas Pine Bluff or Roberts both gave up 95. These games were effectively over around the under 12-minute media timeout of the second half. And that matters because it tells you something about intent. Oklahoma hasn't shown any tendency to sleepwalk through these spots. And the biggest reason why, it's in the backcourt. Nigel Pack is playing like one of the most efficient guards in the country, nearly 50% from three-point range, 17 points a night on average. He doesn't need volume to hurt you. He just needs space. And Stetson's perimeter defense simply doesn't have what it takes to take that away from him. So you pair him with Xavier Brown, who basically lives at the rim and is coming off a 21-point performance, and you have a speed and skill combo that stresses every defensive rotation. This is where mismatches become cascading problems. Stetson wants to shoot threes. That's their identity. Nearly 9 made three-point shots per game. Jamie Phillips Jr., Ethan Copeland, they're capable shooters. But here's the issue. Missed threes against Oklahoma, they don't just turn into rebounds, they turn into runouts. Oklahoma loves to run, and Stetson's transition defense has been porous all season long. You miss a three, Pack pushes. Brown fills the lane. Tay Davis suddenly trails. Now you're looking at giving up a dunk or a rhythm three on the other end. That's how games like this snowball from a manageable 10-point deficit into 25 points before you even realize that it's happening. And we haven't even talked about the paint yet. Tay Davis, Darren Reed, Mohamed Wagi, Oklahoma has real physicality inside. Second chance points matter in games with big spreads because they eliminate possessions. Stetson's undersized. They're not built to bang for 40 minutes in the paint. And against an SEC level length and depth, they're likely one and done on most of their trips down the floor. That's the first half of this handicap. Why Oklahoma can absolutely justify laying nearly 30 points. But here's where you dig a little bit deeper. Here's where you may want to slow your roll a little bit if you're thinking Oklahoma's going to win by 30 or more. Because a 29.5 point spread, it's really about the first 30 minutes. More so, I guess it's about the last 5 minutes, if we're being honest. This is where vitality enters the conversation. If Oklahoma, let's say they're up 35 with 5 minutes left in the game, and that's a very realistic scenario, okay? Porter Moser, what he's going to do, he's pulling the starters, as he should. There's no incentive to keep Nigel Pack or Xavier Brown on the floor. And once that happens, the game's going to change because bench lineups, they don't defend with the same urgency. Walk-ons don't close out as hard. And Stetson, for all of its flaws, these guys can shoot the basketball. This is where that dreaded backdoor cover lives. All it takes is a couple of late threes against a relaxed defense, and suddenly a 35-point lead becomes 27. The crowd is happy. Oklahoma wins comfortably, but everyone thinking 29 and a half or better, they're staring at the scoreboard wondering how a blowout turned into a losing proposition. That's why this number is so sharp. The market knows Oklahoma is better. It also knows that Stetson has already lost by 30 plus 3 times this season, including 41 at Miami, 31 at South Carolina, and Rhode Island. So this isn't theoretical. It's on tape. The question isn't can Oklahoma cover? The question is whether they stay engaged long enough to do it cleanly. And that's where Oklahoma's recent home profile matters here. The Sooners haven't shown a habit of letting teams linger. They scored early, they scored in waves, and importantly, they take care of the basketball. Only 7.6 turnovers per game over the last 5. So that denies Stetson the cheap points that they really need in order to try to survive this game. When underdogs can't score in transition, covering big numbers, it becomes so much harder. But let's talk about the total for just a minute. The total's sitting around 148.5. That looks high at first glance, but Oklahoma's doing most of the work here. If the Sooners push this into the low 90s, mid 90s, which they've done repeatedly at home, Stetson only needs to scrap together 55 to 60 points, and you get an over on this number. And ironically, the same garbage time that threatens the spread, it kind of helps the total here. Late threes, faster pace, loose defense. Those final 4 minutes often decide overs in a game like this. So when you put it all together, here's where I land on this. Oklahoma, the better team by a wide margin. They're dominant at home. Their backcourt is too fast. Their interior, too physical. And Stetson's road profile suggests that they struggle just to stay competitive against high major athletes, I guess, teams of this level. So I would lay the points. I'm laying points cautiously, but confidently. I'd also lean over the total. I would trust Oklahoma's pace and late game chaos to push this into the low 150s. So I would give you a final score somewhere around Oklahoma 92, Stetson 58. It could be 100. It could be 60 for Stetson. So I think Oklahoma doesn't have a problem here. So this isn't a game that you would watch the point spread because it's fun. This is a game that you would watch the point spread because you understand where the risk actually lies, okay? Efficiency early, discipline late, and there it is. That's the handicap. Sooners roll, Sooners win big tonight.